But anyway, Pokemon I can name: Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Pikachu, Charizard, Mew. Ready?
Yeah.
Welcome to Equip Talks, where we make faith and culture make sense. I'm JD.
And I'm CJ.
Hey, CJ.
What's up, JD? Man, I'm excited. This is like our third podcast.
Third.
Well, if you don't count the first couple.
Oh, well, we had one.
We had one day we'll release the first
We will
one.
release the first one. That was rough.
That was rough.
That was hardcore.
We let people watch it. It was,
it was
to our chagrin.
We let some of our students watch it, and they're like, "Hey, maybe we should re-record."
Reshoot, yeah.
So we did, and this is all that anyone's seen to this point. So, it is the date that it is. And
that is so insightful. Today is the day that it is.
It's the date that it is, and this is being released the day that it's being released. So.
For sure. And so depending on when you're listening to it, right now what's relevant is this. We're getting close to the storming Area 51. Something on Facebook blew up about storming Area 51, not thinking that giving the government 2 months in advance notice to move things. If you're into those kind of conspiracies or whatever. So it's like, oh, we're going to do this.
Yeah. And so where we look often with our trends, Area 51 was huge. When I was a kid, like Lord of the Rings was popular from when I was in like 3rd grade till I was in 7th grade. And it was super popular for that entire span. Now what's cool, Area 51, talking about it, the jokes, it's not cool anymore. Like I have been thinking of a funny bit or joke to make about Area 51, and then now people are like, what's that? And I'm like, oh, it was something that was cool 2 weeks ago.
Oh, right, like it's just short.
Yeah, unfortunately, it took me 2 weeks to find a funny joke, but I'd like to try to tell it even though I forgot it.
Well, I did put in the notes that you're going to talk about, is this the same joke you're going to tell? JD wants to tell a joke.
A joke. It's a bad joke,
what's your joke?
But it's not, okay, but I forgot it.
What? This is the whole reason I wrote it down. So you we wrote this specifically so you could tell a joke.
Yeah. Here's the
point.
Here's the joke. But it doesn't. It's an incomplete joke, and that's why it makes it funny.
Well,
but also
we'll be
funny.
the judge.
Okay, all right.
You can comment.
It's funny. Don't worry about it. So, Area 51. Are there any other areas? Like
what? Like Area 50? 49?
Yeah, Area 5. Where's Area 5? It's a bad joke, okay? I know, but...
You wrote this?
Yeah. To me too. But what's trending? The Face app was trending 2 weeks ago.
When Russia was taking all our faces?
Yeah. And I didn't do it. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done it. But now
if I do it?
If I do it, because I want to see what I look like old. But the thing is here's the deal. Everyone's like, oh, we look so good when we're old, but it's not taking into account that you're going to be like 40 pounds heavier and probably be missing some teeth. Well, I will.
Hey, missing teeth? What kind of lifestyle are you living? You're going to be 40 pounds heavier with fewer teeth.
Yeah.
It's because you're on Area 49.
49, because I was raised under the power lines, man. So I don't even know what that means.
You just scared everyone. So you just created a conspiracy theory that people are going to now be checking out.
Hashtag I'm trending.
Oh.
If I say that enough, I will be trending, so relax. We had a student last night come up to us and ask us how many Pokemon.
I was asked that question.
How many Pokemon can we name? I actually can name a few. If you gave me a picture of them, I could definitely name which one it was. Or if you gave me like a in school we had to draw the line to what matched. If you give me a mix
like real life, I've had to do that so many times in real life.
Yeah, for
like, what do you want at the grocery store? I had to draw a line to the groceries I wanted. Snickers bar, Mike and Ike's.
What do you want?
Just I hand it to them.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's good.
It's very applicable.
Yeah, it wasn't. But anyway, Pokemon I can name: Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Charmander, Pikachu, Charizard, Mew, Mewtwo. There's a lot, dude. There's 7 right there, just off the top of the dome.
Is there like are there 51 Pikachus?
No, there's 100 original Pokemon. I was a nerd when I was a child.
That's awesome. Hey, there's nothing wrong. That's good. I can name 1 Pikachu.
Well, you should be able to name 7 because I just gave you 7.
Well, I wasn't like. So obviously, I'm super tired. I didn't even shave today.
No,
I am so tired. I've been running ragged.
The bags under his eyes are not Prada. So
yeah. So when you named off 7, I heard like Charizard or something like that. I started with charcoal. I thought about burgers.
Exactly, but that's a good way to remember.
Name association. Is that our tip of the week? Name association.
Name association. Tip of the week.
Not our tip. No. All right. Well, that's our look at culture.
Whoa! Wow! Good. Okay. All right. 1 tip.
So I was gonna tell him I'm tired. Like, I mean, I already said that, I know, but like legit, I'm tired. Like, I've been up till 3 writing. We had a lot of stuff to get ready for the podcast. Yeah. And I know that you guys, when this is filmed, many of our students are kind of in their first full month of school. They've been in their sports. They've been getting ready to be testing. Their first projects are becoming due. Yeah. And I think what's hard is I know that when in scripture and in church, we're talking a lot about rest. And I think the question comes down, I don't think that any of us don't want more rest. Yeah. I think that we either don't know how to say no, like these are a lot of times are expectations that are put on us, and we can't say no. It wasn't like we were given an option to be busy, or we don't necessarily know how to rest. So maybe when we get that time away, and I thought today be applicable for our students to kind of process through. I know I need rest. I'd love to talk about it. And hopefully our students at the end of this can say, hey, I need rest. Yeah. And I know how to get some. I'm going to go do that.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening, students.
Absolutely. Honestly. I mean, I think rest is something that you have to schedule at times. Just like play is something you have to schedule.
It's weird, right?
It is weird. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that often, and the one thing that finally helped me is just getting off my phone, disconnect from work, disconnect from school. I know that for some parents and teachers, this isn't a popular opinion, but if it's going to benefit in the classroom, that we disconnect from some of our studies and things for an hour in the evenings, getting away from video games, getting away from the things, honestly, my thing is nature, going and playing with my dogs helps me a lot. My wife and I go and take walks around our park, like just getting to disconnect. The difference, I think, between you and I, sometimes, everyone needs their alone time, but I get life from being around people because I'm an extrovert. So oftentimes in my job, like after I'm done with work, I feel more like better equipped,
energized,
with
more people,
energy,
for sure.
Absolutely. Whereas you,
as an introvert, like I tend to enjoy that time with people, but it's more draining. I heard it once said that introversion and extroversion are predominant kind of, no one is wholly either way, but it's kind of like whether you're a wireless controller or you're a controller that's plugged in. Like an extrovert needs to be plugged into the source at a good time, whereas the introvert is more the battery control. So it's like you can still function, they're still functioning, they're still enjoying the game, but the battery's being drained. And so there's that. So I'm gonna have to get recharged at some point, back in. And I think maybe part of it, I was just thinking now that part of maybe why we struggle with rest as a nation or as people is because I think we associate laziness with resting. Okay. Yeah. And we think, well, if I'm not doing something, I'm obviously being lazy and not productive. However, rest differs from laziness. Rest actually is productive. Yeah. And so determining how we recharge and refuel is important. But to figure that out, we have to disconnect, like you said, disconnect from the very sources that are draining our attention, causing our mind to be engaged, and tempting us to when we talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. We have that device right here. We're connected to the society. It's like we want to continually, we're going to be tempted to want to know. Biologically, that ding goes off, we get a hit of dopamine. Yeah. And so even if we put our phone away, we hear that ding, our brain is worrying about, I have to check. It's the reward system. It's how we work, So.
Like on The Office, when I forgot.
Oh, Dwight.
With the mint.
Ding. Like Pavlov's dog, and he keeps, and then, what are you doing, Dwight?
Yeah. Same thing. right?
Yeah.
Same exact thing.
We are being trained by those dings. For sure.
So the device, is it always draining? Is it always life-giving? I think a word and a phrase that I've stolen from you is life-giving. It's a very, I don't know where you got it. If you
I like that word, obviously, because I'm tired, so obviously I use that. You just said, I got this word from you. I like that word.
Yeah, you like it? You showed me
use that word often.
So
it's life-giving.
But what is life-giving? So where I like to think that, playing a game on my phone or scrolling through Facebook or Instagram is life-giving because I'm getting entertainment from it.
Oh, right.
Is that taking away from my wife and kids? Is it taking away from time that you and I are connecting, talking? Is it taking, or the big one actually, if I'm laying in my bed alone during some of my alone time before my wife gets home from work and I'm sitting there on Facebook, like there's no harm in it. I'm not, ignoring anyone else. But what am I seeing? And it's, we're not always talking about some of the bad things that are, dangers to our minds morally. But what are the things that we're seeing, the opinions on our politics, the opinions on our social, economical values that we all like to argue about on social media? Are those things allowing our brains to rest? Are they allowing our hearts to rest? And that's a question that I would ask anybody, that I have to ask myself, is it smarter for me to put this thing down for the temptation of going on to Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and looking at all these opinions that are going to keep my brain awake and moving and not allowing me to fully disconnect? So we're not saying, don't be watching TV because you're gonna fry your brain, kid.
Yeah.
It's more, get away from the opinions, get away from all the stuff that's telling you that you need to be thinking or doing.
Because we internalize that, even if they're not saying it to us.
Yeah.
I've read articles and thought, I do need to change that about myself. Or
Yep.
do I act that way? And there's value in that in the right context and
Yes.
time. What I'm hearing you say is like, but if you're allowing that to be, all of a sudden you're going to deep diving conversation within yourself right before bed.
Not smart.
You're not preparing
Usually
yourself
not
for
smart.
rest. Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that, you specifically mentioned the phone or even our iPads or technology in general. I think because if I'm hearing it correctly, and what I'm hearing in this is that there are going to be things that are outside our control.
Yeah.
So the projects your teachers are assigning, the workload that maybe your boss is giving you, the times when you can't say no is building obviously expectation, the things that there is a level of performing we have to do in our life naturally. However, there is one of the biggest things we do get to control is our diet, not our diet necessarily the food we eat, but the media we consume. Yeah. And so one way to actually begin to allow our brain to maybe process what we've experienced throughout the day and then enter into a stage of rest is by saying, I'm going to disconnect from this device that is connecting me to literally everything in the world, and that is continue to keep my brain engaged. So I can move to a state of rest by disconnecting from the thing that is at unrest.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So our tip is to disconnect.
And not in like a teacher way or a parent way of like turn off that phone, but like
turn it off.
We know that again, if rest equals productivity, we know that when you rest, you actually then are more productive in the other areas you've said yes to or had to say yes to, and you'll find yourself less tired and emotionally drained, and you'll actually perform better and excel. And so it actually is one of the best things you can do is rest.
Yeah.
So we always talk about one thing, like one takeaway.
Yeah.
The particular week. We're talking about rest and disconnect.
One thing we want you to know. Rest equals peace, and I think knowing peace can equal rest. So a scripture that I guess the one thing I would want you guys to know.
Well, you're telling me I'm gonna get my iPad while you're telling them your scripture.
Okay. So the one thing, John 16 verse 33. This is Jesus talking. And everything I've taught you is so that the peace which is in me will be in you, and will give you great confidence as you rest in me. For in this unbelieving world, you will experience trouble and sorrows, but you must be courageous, for I have conquered the world. So that first part, and everything I've taught you is so that the peace which is in Jesus will be in us. Will give you great confidence as you rest in me. So as we disconnect, so going back to our last topic on our tip, like we want to disconnect, but to find that rest, we need to have peace. And I think oftentimes what I have struggled with in the past is thinking that Jesus is directly correlated to my success and my success as a husband, as a father, as an employee, and also in my career, in my path as just a person, successful as a person. He's tied to kind of my morals more so than actually Jesus is tied to our peace. He's tied to our joy. He's tied to the things that are inside, not necessarily everything else around. And you had a good point that we talked about earlier on the difference between historically where we are now versus when Scripture was.
For sure. And so where I was thinking about all this is, again, Jesus teaching and recording the book of Matthew. And he says, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." He says, "Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and I am gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." And he says, "For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." And I think a lot of times we read this through a Western cultural lens. We've mistaken rest to being like binge watching a television show and eating junk food, then we wake up the next day not feeling rested. And when I think about that, it's not that necessarily I do those. We have our cheat days, and I love those days of getting to do that. But that doesn't necessarily equate the rest he's talking about. So we'll also read this like, oh, okay, well, this thing following Jesus must be easy. And he's not actually talking about the work. What really stood out to me in this, he says, "Take my yoke." He's kind of referring to like oxen and how take a little like a younger oxen, or whatever young oxen's called. I don't know what's a
young oxen.
A young oxen's called. Is there a special name?
I thought it was just an ox,
like a baby ox. I don't know.
Oxen?
No,
I thought that was.
That's like there's two of them. But it's not like sometimes there's names for like baby animals.
Like the stuff you use to clean your sheets with, OxyClean?
OxyClean, little OxyClean.
I don't know.
Like, well, it's all called little ox. Take the little ox, the big ox.
Sorry, continue.
Anyway, so he says with my yoke, that was you'd be yoked to each other. And I always thought about that this is plowing the field. Yeah. And this scripture, when I'm reading it today, it's not. I'm reminded it's not Jesus is not calling us necessarily. There is work to be done. There are things that he's calling us to. But the point isn't about the field and the plow. The point is about being yoked to Jesus, being with Jesus, finding peace in Jesus. Mm-hmm. And when he says about the heavy burdens and that kind of stuff, it's not talking about. I think, like I said, in Western culture, we want to say, oh, my burden is I've got this big test. My burden is I've got a big game coming up. Oh, my burden is I got this project or whatever it may be, my work, my boss. The burden you're talking about here is the Torah, all the rules and regulations that the generations were trying to strive to achieve to find approval in God. Yeah. And so I think that we miss out on real rest because we think that if we just get that trophy or get that A or get that project done, well, if we lean into Jesus and he's our peace, well, he's going to help me get these things done. And then we're like, I still don't feel approved. And what he's reminding us is it's good to do well in your school. It's good to do well in your sports. It's good to do well on your projects your boss gives you. We want to do things with excellence. But this scripture is about finding your peace, finding your wholeness, finding your completeness in Jesus. Yeah. Like he is all those, like he took the place of all of the things we had to work and strive to find approval in God. We are approved through his son Jesus, and that's our peace. Like we get to attach ourselves, not work for Jesus, but work with Jesus, go with Jesus. I think that is where we find our rest. We are disconnected from all the things of this world. We're recognizing the burdens aren't necessarily earthly burdens, because even when we achieve, it's why we can achieve success and still not feel good enough. Uh-huh. Because we want to find our approval and sufficiency or satisfaction in God alone. Yeah. And that's what Jesus is saying. Like, all those things are good, but you'll never find complete satisfaction, even in completing them, until you find yourself yoked to me, where that ultimate peace is at. And I think we miss Jesus so much because we equate rest either lazy, so we don't do it, or we equate rest to busyness and binge watching. Mm-hmm. And what he's really saying is actually yoke yourself, come be with me, walk alongside me. The work will actually get done. Yeah. but your approval and life is with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a Quick Talks, and we're hoping to continue to make faith and culture make sense.
Cool.
See you guys next week.